Okay, I'm going to do a little research of the Grayson Archer game, and I'm going to do this on the fly as though I were covering the game and just go to a couple of websites where I would find some information about it. The first one's going to be the Georgia High School Football Historians Association. It's a website that I helped start almost 20 years ago now, and Georgia's a fortunate state in that you can pretty much find all teams' history of scores from the beginning of time. You can't do that in a lot of states, such as Florida, for example, or even California. So I'm going to click. I've got a whatever you call that, a link to it up here, but the web address is right here, ghsfha.org, and I guess that would bring you to it if you just want like that. Okay. All right. So I'm looking for information about Grayson. So I'm going to type Grayson in the scroll bar here. Or not scroll bar, but if you just type it in and wait, it'll bring you up. I can go to their 2021 season, or I can just go to Grayson Football, which is what I'll do. And it's not a real fast site, but it'll eventually come up for you. And this shows you Grayson's all their scores. Let me make it a little bigger there. They started in 2000, and then this is this year. Now I can click on right there, and I can see their season. What they're doing, or I can click this little triangle here and it'll pull it down, so I can see that they're 2-1. They just beat Alpharetta last week pretty easily, beat McEachern, and of course they lost their opener to Creekside. It shows you what the teams are ranked going into that game. So Grayson was ranked number 4, and this Creekside team was ranked number 10. It doesn't show you on here that Creekside is in a lower classification, but and that's what caused them to get bumped out of the rankings. They're back at number 10 going into the Archer game. Okay, and another thing, if I were to just click on the season, let's see what happens. Okay, and then it'll tell you what class these schools are in. So then you can see that Creekside is in region, and that's the classification right there. So they're in 5A, and McEachern is in 7A. Then Alpharetta is also a 7A school, and so is Archer. All right, and so you'll see over here that Archer is not ranked. And so if you want to click on Archer to see how they've done this season, you can click on there, and they've lost. Now they lost to Westlake. Now they've played 2 smaller teams. This Westlake is in 6A, if you can count those, and then Westlake is in 5A, but they're both really good. Okay, so Westlake was ranked 4 at the time. They lost 29-14. And Warner Robins, they're the defending 5A champions. They were ranked number 2. So even though they got smoked pretty good, you know, it doesn't mean that Archer's terrible. So now let's look at Archer's. See if I can go back and find. So with Archer, if I want to know how they've done every season, I'm going to need to scroll up, and I'll click Records for Archer. And then I'll get that page that we saw for Grayson. So you notice that Archer's not been around as long. They just opened in 2009. So they were 7-5 last season. They're 0-2. They made the second round, but you can see they made the quarterfinals, the semis, the quarters. So they're consistently a good team. They were the runner-up, state runner-up that year. And so let's say that I want to find out when's the last time they were 0-2, or if they lose, when's the last time they were 0-3. I can do that 2 ways. One is I can click every season like this, and I can look there, and they were 0-3 last season. So, you know, that might be worth pointing out. They were 0-3 last season, but then they bounced back and won 6 straight games and ended up going to the second round. So they're used to starting slow. Maybe let's see, the year before they didn't start as weekly, but so they just played a tough schedule. So that would be something worth pointing out. And the other thing you might want to know is what is the series between Archer and Grayson? What is their history? So if you're on Archer here, or if you're on Grayson's page, you'll want to go to, if you see records by season, it'll say by opposing program. That's how they've done against all other schools. Click that, and that's all the teams they've ever played. And you find Grayson, and if you click that blue triangle, you'll find that Grayson has pretty much dominated the series, but a lot of the times both of the teams are ranked, so it's always a big game. So it looks here, unfortunately it doesn't tell you, you have to add it up. No, wait a minute. Yeah, I guess you can see it there. So Grayson leads the series 9-2, and if they beat them again, it'll be the 4th straight time they've beaten them. Or if Archers win, you would point out that that Grayson had won the previous 3, so it would end a 3-game losing streak against them. So I guess those are the main things you'd want to see. Another thing you might want to, now as I pointed out to you on the phone, they're not in the same region. Usually they have been, or traditionally they have been. So if let's go back to records, which would be Archer's all-time records. Okay, if you click here, you just get the games, but if you want to know more about the season, you would click the year. And so there, not only would you see all the opponents, but you would see the regions and the classifications they're in. But if you scroll down further, you'll see the region standings. And nobody's played a region game, but let's just say they had. In fact, I'm going to make this complicated and go back. Notice if I click these 2 things, I can go back to 2019, 2018, by clicking that or going forward. Okay, I'm just going to pretend, we're back in 2018. Okay, so Grayson and Archer, let's say they were playing each other. Grayson's in first, Archer's in second. Well, you know good and well, whoever wins this game is big. If Grayson wins, well, they're 2 games up in the standings. Or if Archer wins, they're in a tie for first place with Grayson. So anytime you do in a game, you want to know what are the implications to the region standings. But as we noted in this game, it's not a region game, so it's no big deal. So you could even call it a non-region game if you wanted to help people understand that, because some people may not know. They may not know that they're not in a region this year. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. If you click on the main page of this, which you can do by clicking this icon, or when you first call it up. Let me see if there's anywhere you can find the rankings very quickly. The site can be kind of slow, as you see, especially on Fridays. It's kind of annoying. Okay, if you go on, okay, so this is the main page, and if you want to click on 2021 season, and then you have a lot of other options up here, including rankings. If you hit standings, that'll give you the region standings for all the teams in the state, and you don't really need anything else for the moment. So if you click on rankings, okay, still kind of slow here. All right, so then you can see the rankings class by class. Okay, so you got 7 classifications, and then the smallest class down here is broken into public and private. And then 7A is the largest classification. You notice how on this site they put all the letters there. Well, AJC style, as I mentioned to you before, would be just to have 7A, the numeral 7 and an A next to it. But here he has them all these lined up. So anyway, you can see the rankings there, and you notice, as we pointed out before, Grayson is ranked number 10. Alright, so that's about all I can tell you just briefly on this particular site. The other site where you might be able to find statistics would be Max Preps. So I'm just going to go back to Google, and if I'm interested in Grayson and what their stats look like, I would just type out Grayson Max Preps, okay? And then you're going to see them right here. You're going to click, make sure it says football, it says basketball, you're going to go to the wrong page, but it says football, it'll bring them up here, and then stats. Click that, and there you got it. Okay, so that's their season stats, and yeah, looks pretty good. So you can see they seem to be running the ball a lot. They've got 713 rushing and only 217 passing. So clearly, very much a running team. And this is their leading rusher. If you click on the guy, then you can see what he's done. So he's rushed for, let's say this guy, Joe Taylor. You'll hear a lot of him. If he rushes for 100 yards, you might want to say it's the 3rd straight game he's gone over 100. Or if they hold him to 22 yards, you might say, here's a guy who's run for 100 the last 2 games, but Archer held him to 22. You know, so you can always compare what people do to what they historically have done. I don't know what their situation is with their starter. It looks like this guy's playing a little bit, and this guy's playing the most. That's their quarterback, Stone, and so I don't even know if he started the opener, but he played a lot last week against Alpharetta. only 84 yards, even though he's completing 13 passes. So, and he hasn't thrown a TD pass. At least they haven't noted that he has. So he hasn't been that effective. 2 interceptions. So those are just things that I would notice about Grayson as I'm looking at it. Also, of course, their rosters on here, which I think you were already aware of. That's where you had found rosters before. But just know their team stats are there. But I should say, hopefully their team stats are there, because I would say about 70% of the teams put their stats on there. A lot of them don't. Archer, I don't know. I'm going to put Archer, Max Preps, and just hope. I'm going to guess they're not on there, but I could be wrong. They're not. So we don't really know anything about them. Now, they're at a Gwinnett County school, so their past games have probably been covered by the Gwinnett Daily Post. So that's another way I might look for them. So who did we say that they played? They played Westlake. They played Warner Robins. So we might get lucky and find that Archer or Warner Robins if their game was covered or not. Not immediately seeing it, so I would research past newspaper articles. I do know that here's their football preview by the Gwinnett Daily Post, so that'll tell you a little bit about them there. I might save that and send it to you. Alright, so also their coach it sent me something in preseason. I don't know what it was. Let's see. Yeah, he mentioned these two guys as being their best players. So I'll send you that too. Alright, so anytime, these guys do something, if DJ Moore catches a touchdown pass tonight, then point out, going to Georgia Tech, I mean, that's an interesting thing. I'd want to know that, I may be a Tech fan. And this guy from Auburn, he's probably the best player. He's mentioned here, 3-year starter, he's going to Auburn. I'm sure he does more than just play safety. But anyway, so just be on the lookout for those two guys. And also, as far as stats goes, you don't have stats for them, which is too bad. But if you get there early enough and get around the press box, if you find somebody for Archer up there, just ask them. Do you have any team stats or anything like that? Or there may not be anybody up there for Archer since it's a home game for Grayson. But sometimes you can find stuff that way. And also, you don't necessarily need stats. If you don't have them, you don't have them, because what's most important is what they do this particular night. So trying to think if there's anything else that I might look up. I mean, that's about it. And also, make sure too on Thursdays, that's when Georgia High School Football Daily does the previews of the 10 best games. This particular game didn't make our top 10, so you won't find it this week. But this is also a good resource here. Obviously, if your game was one of these, you can read a lot about it. The stuff that we put in there. At least I don't think it was. I don't remember it. So anyway, but that's one more source, and but that's it. Probably taking up too much of your time. But hope that's helpful. I may send you some links to some of these things, and good luck tonight and in the future.